Hello there, fellow zombie slayers. My name is Stanley557, and welcome back to another amazing Call of Duty Zombies video. And today we're here with Afterlife. Alex, welcome.
How's it going? Good to be here. Happy to be here. Ready to get into it.
Let's just talk about it. So, The Tomb, a very interesting map that just released, and there's a lot of contention in the community talking about it. Let's start with first just overall thoughts. What do you think of the map?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just say that it's the best map in the world. I don't think that's true. Obviously it's more on the, I think it's above average, don't get me wrong. But I think it's positive. I do like the map. I think it's fun. I think it's beautiful. I think there is some issues with the story, but overall, I like playing it. I like being in it. One of the things that I always talk about, like in my reviews and stuff, is I think a zombies map should be the way Treyarch designs it should be a place that the player wants to spend time in to uncover the secrets and to unravel the world. And so I think this is a place that you want to spend time in. Like I said, there's some issues with the narrative, but largely I do think it's a good experience.
I completely agree. I think it's fun. I think it's super well made, especially the art design of it. Like the locale of it is beautiful. And I think back to a lot of people asked for in Cold War. I think back to a lot of people asked for in Vanguard, where they wanted to go to these unique locations, these different places. And I really feel that when I enter the Tomb. It doesn't feel like a zombies map that we've been to before.
Yeah.
And a word that I had thrown around at me recently was that it felt like the most official custom map they'd ever played. And I didn't exactly feel that way, but I also understood where they were coming from, though.
Yeah. I understand why people are upset, and obviously we'll get into some of those things, but I just think that, okay, I want to say two things. People are justified in their opinions, and they don't actually have to go any further than just saying, I don't like something. They don't actually need to have reasons. If you don't like something, you don't like something. I just want to put that out there. Like, I'm not chastising you for not liking this map. However, I think it would be really helpful for not even the community, but for Treyarch and for yourself, if you could justify those opinions just a little bit. Like, what about the map don't you like? Is it the gameplay? Is it the X, Y, or Z? Like, what types of things in the game are causing you to feel a certain way? And I think if we could kind of isolate those things as a community, Treyarch would really be able to take that feedback, back to home base, and then hopefully not do those things again, or reiterate and tweak and tune and give us a even better experience next time. At least that's kind of my hope.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, the biggest comment that you and I both saw is that it's the worst map and that Treyarch is lazy. And I don't think both of those opinions are ever substantiated with any evidence besides the map sucks and it doesn't have X, Y, and Z, so Treyarch clearly must not be trying.
Yeah,
and that
or
typically
it was
is what
rushed.
I feel it comes down to. Or it was rushed. That's the other one. Yeah, it was rushed. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's what they ever try and go for. I think with this release style, they're trying a different thing where it's like, what if we release some smaller maps that allow us to do different locations that we don't want to make a full map out of, but we make something where it's like people want a dig site. Let's do a tomb map. That might not be a full big experience, and it could be, but they said, let's split, 75% of our resources to a map to Citadel, 75 to the Tomb. And that's two maps now.
I posted a tweet about this earlier, and I said, basically, in 2020, all the zombies community was like, we have seasons now. What if it's, D Machine and then a baby map, then Firebase Z, then a baby map, and then so on and so forth, like through every season. That way we had content every time. I remember that being a huge talking point in 2020, 2021. And now we're getting that, and people are super pissed. Do you think it's a marketing issue, or do you just think that the community actually doesn't want these smaller maps?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of it. I would say it's a mix of the marketing. That was a big thing I saw too, is people felt they had been misled, and we'll get into that a bit later. But I think of the Ruka Miso silos from Cold War. That was a big one where people went, why can't that be a survival map? And during the Outbreak Easter egg, when you go down to those missile silos, And people wanted that as a survival map. They went, oh, Cold War needs more maps. Let's do that as a map. Let's do that as an Outbreak like round-based map. And they never did. And here we are at this point where they're like, oh, well, maybe we should do that. Maybe that was something that they thought of, and they went, let's go and do that now. We have the resource, we have the time. Let's make extra maps that we think people will enjoy. And I think it's also like, what do certain players want? Certain players want the BO3 5 main map experience, where each map is a AAA 10-pole experience, whereas some people want them to do like 16 maps, but they're all different locations that are all like really quick, really like quick cycle maps where you play it for a couple of weeks, new one comes out, you play it for a couple of weeks, and it all pushes a single narrative and allows you to hit more story beats. And that's what I think they're trying to go for with BO6. Are they successful? That's what we're going to get into. But that's what I think they're trying to go for, is that philosophy.
Yeah. No, I actually agree. I don't, obviously this is your show, so I don't want to like steer the conversation, but I am curious of like what features you do feel worked well inside of the Tomb, and what you think's positive in terms of gameplay and stuff.
Yes, and that's actually great that you said that. That's the first point that I have, is features that I felt worked. I like the inclusion of the Dark Ether. I think that's something that I absolutely want them to go back to much more than they have. And I think this is a first positive step in the right direction. I also think that like the side eggs, the fact that we have, they're listening to the fact that we want more difficult, more interesting concepts to go for. And I think the gold armor is perfect. That's the first thing that I think of when I think of like, let's do something that's difficult. Let's do something that's hard. It challenges the player, and it makes you think like, should I go for this? It gives you a new option of like, do I risk everything in my game to go for the gold armor? It's almost imperative to have. And you now have to and now you have to consider, is it worth it to risk everything for it? And I want to see more like that. I remember Expert Fusion was a big proponent of the spork knife from Blood of the Dead, be like that style of quest. And I'm not sure if they're going to do that, but something of that difficulty I'm happy seeing again. I'm happy seeing things that, like when Donuts and my team went through the main quest on day one, we were freaking out. We were trying to do it. It really made us strategize and think like, all right, someone bring a Killjoy. Someone bring, a score streak. All right, my score streak's out now. Come into the boss arena with a new one. Or come into the arena with a new one. And that, like, it made us think a lot more about how we were going to take down those foes. And I really like that. That's what I want to see, is something that makes you think as a team. It was something that I immediately thought, like, this is a perfect side Easter egg, in my opinion. And the other thing I really liked was the boss fight. I like when they get wacky. I like when they get crazy. And I thought it was really cool that, like, it's a Sentinel artifact. It's a mirror. And it's shooting lasers at you. It's summoning bosses. You can stop which bosses it summons at you. It summons HVTs that, like, two-shot you, which is the whole issue. But I think it's a cool concept, and I think they almost pull it off super well. What about you, though? What do you think works on the map?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to comment on the armor, the golden armor, for a second. Like, that's something that I've been talking about for quite a while. Like, I know that we're never going to go back to, and it makes me sad, but I know we're never going to go back to, like, the Blood of the Dead type full main quests where it takes literally 2.5 hours if you're taking your time and going through it. I know that's not going to happen. I know that's what I want, but I have accepted the death of that whole concept, and it's fine. I'm working through it. I'm in therapy. We're gonna make it. Yeah, it's in plan. It's in my network. I'm covered, guys. So, but I will say that if they're not going to do that with the main quest, then at least do it with other side content. And so the golden armor, while it's not quote unquote perfect of what I would personally like, I think it's a huge leap. I would say it's not even a step, it's a leap in the right direction towards having those side quests that are meaningful and they're deep and they're challenging. Because the golden spork knife, which is on Expert and I agree on this, it's so much fun. It's like its own little main quest inside of Blood of the Dead. So do I wish there was like more steps to this thing? Sure, but that's not what we're really here to argue about. The thing that I like about the quest is not only that it's challenging, not only is it unique to the map, not only does it have like cool visuals that emphasize how important it is, it gives you a reward that is not in the game. So you have to overcome this really absurd, in a good way, an absurd obstacle that gives you something that you can't just press square and buy, that you can't just go to a crafting table and make, that you can't just get a drop of. It's a unique item that you have to unlock, and those are what side quests are for. I like perks. I like getting drops. I like getting, the Rat King helmet. I think that's fine, but I want something that says, you know what, you just did this crazy thing. You deserve to go above and beyond what we can offer in our base, mechanical system. So that's why I think the side quest particularly
100%.
works very well. As far as the boss fight, I know I'm probably going to get called a shill here, but I actually haven't beaten it yet. I've gotten to it a couple times. I've died a bunch of times, but I'm actually fine with that. I don't need to beat the boss right away. I said this in my own video. That's not something I really care about. I like to replay the eggs over and over, and beat them, and then I try to do it with like no gums, and then with gums, and I try different strategies around 100. And so I am fine that this is a dense piece of content that's going to take me a little bit to get through, because I have a job and stuff. I can't just sit and grind zombies right now. It's just not my season of life. So I'm actually okay with that. But the boss fight, I find it to just be... This map is kind of exactly what I wanted. A lot of the things I talked about in Citadel with Treyarch utilizing the map, like the features in the map, like the chandeliers and the ice staff. I said that in my video. I was like, I hope they do stuff like that. I hope they have a boss fight where they're just throwing enemies at you from the dark ether and it's chaotic. I did a little bit of a different theme, which we can talk about in the narrative side of this thing. But overall, the boss fight's pretty much what I wanted. The Easter egg's pretty much what I wanted. So overall, I'm very enthused with the approach that they had taken with the mechanics writ large inside of this map.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, I think if they just nerf like the HVTs, if they like 3-shot you, I think 2-shotting's a bit too much at full max armor and health. But besides that, like, I think if they just nerf the stun on them, like, I like that the Sentinel artifact stuns you. I like that it adds to the chaos of like the enemies trying to fight you. I like that every time you destroy the Sentinel artifact zombie, it then spawns in the artifact zombie plus the artifact Doppelgast, and then and the mimic Sentinel artifact and the amalgam. It all keeps adding, plus the enemies that the other 4 artifacts are spawning if you take too long. I think all that is really cool, and that's perfect. And I think it's super unique, and I'm glad they're doing that. Like, I think that's an area where they keep pushing the envelope and trying new things. I'm glad it's not just another enemy number 37. It's a part of the map. It's part of like what you're going for. Now, part of the narrative of how the artifact works is something I'm a bit more miffed on, but that's later.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with a lot what you said, though, and I do also agree that I'm really sad that we're not going back to that old zombies era of like these 3-hour quests. But I think finding a middle ground is important. On Liberty Falls and Terminus, there were Easter eggs that were really easy. You held X on a button, you did like one thing, and there was a reward, and that's all it was. And I don't think every side Easter egg should be like that, not at all. I think that this is an absolute step in the right direction of including something that you can only do at endgame, and doing more with that, wrapping your whole game around a side quest. Like, again, Spork Knife. In Blood of the Dead, you have to wrap your entire loadout around just trying to do that if you want to do it. It's completely different than what you'd set up for the Easter egg. And that's what I think makes it engaging to do. You have to strategize if you want to bring that with you and go for that Herculean ordeal.
Yeah,
but
I mean, even like in Ancient Evil, I know this is kind of more of a Citadel thing, but like the fact that you could double upgrade the gauntlets, or just things that push it a little further. Now, does that mean we need to have a double upgrade ice staff or something? No, I mean maybe there could have been like I don't know, like you do something with the ice staff and then it gives you some sort of ice bomb, where how there's that animation when you collect those electric orbs on Terminus or in the tomb when you're doing the step with the parasites. You can hold that orb and it has like the left hand animation. What if there was something you could do to unlock a secret ability with the ice staff, and it like pours ice into your hand and you hold an orb and you can like throw it across the map? Just something
cool,
special. Yeah, just something that pushes the gameplay outside, because I know that we're going to have the crafting table everywhere. I know that every map is going to have every weapon. I get that stuff. Every perk is going to be the same. So finding unique gameplay mechanics that you can unlock via side quests and reward you is super, super important, especially in this style of zombies.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the incantations I think of, which are just like, the left-hand punches. or the left hand, doesn't matter. You punch stuff, and it's a glorified, mini attack, but it's something unique. It's only on Citadel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about, okay, so something a lot of people have been getting upset about is that it's not that the ice staff returned, it's that the quest is too tedious, and then they're also mad that we don't have all 4 staves. And now, before you answer, I just want to say the thing that's confusing about the all 4 staves thing is I feel like they would just be pissed that it's the 4 elemental thing again. So it's like, I don't know how to decipher stuff like that, because in Citadel, everybody was mad that we had all 4 elemental swords again. It's like, oh my gosh, this trope again. Yeah. And now people are pissed that we don't have it again. I don't know.
Yes, so there are at least 15 different angles to tackle it from. Let's look at least probably like the main one, which is for most people, or there's 2 angles to look at. These are the 2 big ones. People are thinking, if you're going to do one, why not just do all 4 at that point? Why even just pick the one ice staff? It feels completely alone, as it's supposed to be a concept that's wrapped around all 4 of them.
That's fair.
The other angle is, why is it even here? Why is it just the ice staff? And why is it just an artifact that's known? It makes no sense in the narrative. Like, why not have it be the Staff of Ra? That at least made sense in the Chaos lore. Maybe it got lost after the events of, Ancient Evil, and now it's in the Dark Aether. That would be a bit more thematically... That would tie it together better with the Sentinel artifact being here. It would tie it together with what's known in the Chaos Dark Aether lore. And then the Ice Staff just doesn't really have a reason to be here. Like, Archibald talks about it like it's this mythic artifact. Maybe it's a mythic artifact if we're in the old universe, because it's labeled as being in the Great War, it's labeled as being in Origins. What's it doing here?
Yeah.
There's no explanation for it at all. They're just like, oh, yeah, it's the Ice Staff. You, the audience, you know what that is, right? But...
Yeah, I mean, narratively speaking, like the way I kind of look at the Dark Aether is like it's fractured and spreading, and so maybe like bits and pieces of it have like brought things out from the old universe.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? And can see
you're not wrong. It's really a trash can. Like, it absolutely makes sense that it is there. It's just
a lazy reason, perhaps.
A lazy reason, yeah. Like, I think it's not as lazy what they did in Shinonuma and Vanguard, where they just say the Wonderwaff was made by Strauss, and they just like he made the exact same weapon from a whole other universe. Like, he just came up with it. Like, what? Like I don't like. That's the laziest excuse I've ever heard. They're just like, yeah,
the
it's
Nazi DNA.
it.
The Nazi DNA traveled from the original ether through the Dark Aether.
Yeah, like at least the Ray K, they had a reason for it to use the Mark III like Gersh orb, because they say like, oh, in the Dark Aether we found these plans from we found these Russian plans and we implemented it into our Ray K, and that it's the Mark III like left blast. That's why it uses it in Firebase C. Like, that's an explanation for why it's there, and it's repurposed into a new weapon. Whereas like Wonderwaff is just, oh, we built it, and the Ice Staff is, oh, it's just been here. It's fabled in legend. Like, okay. But yeah, I know we've already segued into it, but let's just talk about features we feel don't work. One of them is the Ice Staff. I'll let you start out with this one. What features do you think not work on this map besides the Ice Staff?
Yeah, I guess it's just mostly some of the story stuff, I suppose. This is a hard one, because if we're being honest, there's not a lot of features, right? It's just kind of the Ice Staff, and then there's like there's some traps, and then there's like the main quest. Like this, you said something to me like, or no, I read it on your Twitter, and basically you're saying it's kind of a bare bones experience, and it is a bare bones experience. It's kind of like what you see is what you get.
Yep.
So it's like, narratively speaking, I think the Ice Staff, obviously doesn't fit. But there are, yeah. Why don't you take this and start, because I genuinely am not. I don't have anything off the tip of my tongue that doesn't work except for narrative stuff. That's really kind of my biggest.
I agree.
gripe.
I think narrative is the biggest gripe too. We'll get into I think we'll wrap this more into the next question too. But the biggest one for me is the way the Chaos lore is used and the narrative of the characters. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones, and that like. The lore of the characters is a whole different fractured idea. Like, the outro cutscene for most people doesn't work. The characters don't work. And like the way like the map presents all of this is what's confusing. So I think the easiest place that we'll start is the Chaos lore, and most specifically the way the Sentinel artifact works. So a little spoiler warning for those of you who don't know. In the outro cutscene, it's revealed through very big blocks of text that just 5 of them show up and you have to pause and read them all. Cortifex apparently made the Sentinel artifact. It's no longer made by the 9, it's made by Cortifex for some reason. And for those of you who don't know, the original purpose of the Sentinel artifacts was to basically keep away prima materia for the unworthy. It was made that it kept the secrets and knowledge of the Nine, and by completing these trials, you would gain power, knowledge, and reward. Specifically, the gate, like, you know, you'd gain access to the gateway to the realm beyond, which is often shown in the Pack-a-Punch. But in this, it's seemingly Dark Ether creation that's meant to draw people into it and to sacrifice themselves to it. The Sentinel artifact has a mind of its own, which makes no sense. It's apparently made with a substance called Tempest, which is being mined at Liberty Falls, which also makes no sense because the Sentinel artifact should be powered by prima materia.
Yeah.
Then why is it attacking too? Again, it has a mind of its own. They didn't do that before in Chaos. Every single time they popped the key in it, it was like, oh, we're doing a trial? Cool beans. So it's a bit it's very inconsistent with that.
And that was never even in the base lore when it came to like the comic books and stuff with Bruno.
No.
Like it was its own thing that just harnessed all the. It was like one of those things like the Holy Grail. It's like when you access it, it's like you get all the world's information and you can, you know, become not necessarily a god, but it's just like you have enormous wealth of knowledge and whatever. So yeah, that is actually pretty strange.
Yeah. Someone brought up to me, it's like, why is it attacking you? And I didn't even think about that. Like, why is it attacking? Like, why does it have a mind of its own? In the intel, it says that it stalks, like, Archibald and his crew. And it can stalk things. It's a thinking thing. It's a mirror. It's a piece of metal filled with goop. It's thinking.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. Speaking of, by the way, how did Archibald even get into the Dark Ether? Did he have the amulet? Did he fight the Guardian? Like, I didn't even think about that. But I don't want to nitpick it. Because if you nitpick it, then it starts like falling apart. Like, I think of DE, for example. Why are there zombies on DE? I don't know. Why are there zombies on the Giant? I don't know. I was thinking
That's
about that.
fair.
I was thinking about the ride home today. I'm like, do I even nitpick that? And I'm like, people are going to, but if you want to nitpick that, we can nitpick other stuff too. It's just like, part of it's like to give reason for the story to exist, but it's just, especially on this map, it's a bit more inconsistent than usual. On, you know, a normal zombies map, you can put some suspension of disbelief of just like, okay, zombies are here. You got to fight them. I'm okay with that. Whatever. But this is a pretty big thing where the whole reason why we had the last map was to get the amulet to enter the Dark Ether. That's where we could find the Nexus Point and the Ice Staff and the artifact. So how did Archibald do any of that stuff? I don't want to get too much into it. It's just like, just think about that. Like, chew on that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Okay, I need to zoom out for a little bit. So
Go for it.
If we're talking about features that don't work, right? So it's like I said, it's mostly the story. But when I think about why this is so confusing, it's because when Black Ops 6 started, it seemed like it was wrapping up all, like we broke out of prison and we're going after Richtofen and we have our reasons and we know why. And he's going after the Sentinel artifact and Sam is locked in the Dark Ether and we obviously don't know Richtofen's in the Dark Ether or whatever, wherever he is. I'm assuming that's where he is. And we're trying to kill him, but we don't know what's happened with him. We're tracking him down. So now we got to go to Citadel Daymore. Then we go to Citadel. We find out that in order to get the Sentinel artifact, we have to destroy this Guardian who's holding an amulet that can unlock the Dark Ether. Got it. Sick.
Sure. Yeah,
cool.
that makes sense.
And there's a twist. Crafts Richtofen's father. I'm kind of with you. But then we think about, okay, what is the Sentinel artifact? Okay, well, in the Chaos Crew story, it was this, like we were trying to say, like the Holy Grail. The Nine is protecting it, and Prima Materia powers it, and blah, 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 blah. But then, you're right, I didn't even really think about it. It just has like a complete inversion of everything we thought we knew about the Sentinel artifact. It doesn't really... Now it's like an evil entity that has been spying on people and messing with people, and it's attacking us now when it was actually utilized as a tool that can start trials. So what has been going on this whole time
it's
from
like
1920 to today?
You're supposed to, like, you know, it vanguards the world from, like, this is Alistair Rhodes' own word, it vanguards the world from, you know, Prima Materia. So then, you know, that's the whole reason why the tombs are here. It called different people from different eras to it. That's why we have a Neolithic tomb, a Roman tomb, you know, like an Egyptian tomb. But then it's like, it's evil. It can think. Like, that's the reason why this whole map exists. Like, the whole thing is built around this artifact. Also, don't even get me started on, like, first of all, it's the Odin artifact from Voyage to Despair. Voyage to Despair reference is always going to be a W in my book. Why? This just brings up 15 more questions. What happens to the artifact after a trial? Do they just plop back into the dark ether? What happens, like, when you beat a trial? Like, do you just go to the next one and they all, like, just disappear? Did it merge with the other artifacts? There's only 4. Why is it this one? Why wasn't it a dark ether unique one? Like, you know, you're going to call, you know, they're called the 9. Let's just say there's 9 artifacts. Why are we reusing one of them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, and just, it's nitpicking, but it's stuff that I think it's like, this is what the whole map is based on. So then why, these are extremely, like, specific things that shouldn't be getting in the way. Like, very minor details that should be, like, or major details that need to be looked over and understood.
I completely agree. And I think when you take all of that into consideration and you think about how we were progressing through Black Ops 6 as a whole, and then they really set up this map in general, the Tomb, to be this big exposition about getting the Sentinel artifact, and it's this monumental moment. Richthofen is after it as well. You know, we're both racing to this thing. And then instead of it kind of being this major moment of victory over Richthofen, we're now having a completely different conversation that has nothing to do with him at all. It feels like we just went in a completely different direction. And, like, listen, as a map, gameplay wise, I don't really care. But when it comes to the narrative, it just,
like the limited rules that we had of the artifacts that we're trying to understand this of, it feels like they ignored, like, the 3 things it was supposed to do. It carries premium materia, it challenges worthy people, and it's supposed to keep the world safe from whatever premium materia still exists. And the 9 basically said, like, you know, if you really want to go after this stuff, it's going to kill you. Croft even warns them of that. Like, you know, the Sentinel artifact, you know, will basically, like, kill you if you go for it. Don't let yourself be consumed by it.
Question then. So are we not worthy if it tried to kill us?
Well, we beat it, so, like, maybe that was its trial, was trying to kill us. But it also makes no sense with how trials work. We didn't see any premium materia shoot out of it. Like, you could have even had, like, when we put the amulet in, the artifact gets activated. Like, you know, Archibald never made it into the tomb. The amulet gets you put it into the doorway, and then it activates the trial all on its own. The people who put the amulet in does a little mini lockdown where you fight, like, premium materia zombies. And then, like, that's when the map really begins. That's where you start seeing special enemies show up. That's where you start seeing, like, you hear the Day Nu Ra.
Yeah.
Like, that would at least indicate that we've just started the trial on accident. You know, you can even make up some BS that the amulet's an additional key. It allows you to reactivate the trial. So there, at least the MacGuffin has a purpose.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like they went with any of those directions that made any sense. It's now just like, oh yeah, it's gonna kill people. Like, I mean, sure. If you really want to stretch it and say that the artifact drew in people like the Order, it drew in people like Alistair Rhodes, it drew in people like the Chaos Crew to kill them, you can really stretch it out to do that. I just don't think that was at all what they intended with it originally.
Yeah.
So
it's
confusing.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And I think it's a big part of the map. It's what half the map is taglined as. You're going after the artifact. It's what the past 2 maps have been about. Yeah.
And I think that's actually like a big mistake. And this is, I don't want to jump to number 5, but but I'm just to lightly touch on it, is I think this is why a lot of people are upset about the map, is like the story is just very misleading and it didn't fulfill any really of the promise other than getting the artifact itself.
Which I'm surprised we even did that.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I mean, we have basically all BO6 has done, in my opinion, is taken all of the stuff we learned in Cold War and just stacked even more and more questions on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I agree. Like, I think the Panos stuff was a bit of a mistake. Like, you know, again, maybe they might slam the execution with Panos. Who knows? But that shouldn't have been what the map was about at all. And it's just sidetracking Liberty Falls. It's like, you know, Liberty, like, Panos getting out of the Dark Ether should have been the halfway point of that narrative. He should have been like, you know, in the same way that, like, you know, Modi's at the halfway point of Terminus, but then you kill her at the end of it. Panos should have been the halfway point of that. You work with Richthofen in Liberty Falls, and then you shoot Panos back into the Dark Ether. He gets out of the Dark Ether, so at least you've squashed that stone. with him being in the Dark Ether and the the abilities of Sam. And at least, you have his narrative working against our character's narrative who are working with Sam, but they don't do that. And now we have like Chaos lore on top of this. We have Dark Ether lore on top of this. We have the Ice Staff coming back, and we have lay motifs from Origins and Origins iconography. Like when we lay all this out in a track, this is why people are upset. This is why people, like, at least the hardcore people that keep up with it. And this is stuff I absolutely want to see them do better with. I know we're halfway through the season, and I think this is the point where like this is where they hear stuff from launch and they're slowly making those changes about this time of the year. Usually by DLC 2 is when we can like see stuff that we ask for get changed. And so we'll see if that happens. And then the other half of the coin that we want to talk about the narrative is the characters. Personally, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. The characters do have voice lines. If you just hear them, they talk, they interact with Archibald and
they do.
And Sam. But I also understand where people are coming from, where it's like, this is where people are getting mad. They want that character-driven narrative of every character needs to have a reason to be here. And it doesn't feel like that they do. It feels like the most thin plot you can give them. They want to kill Richtofen. Great. That, BO3 wouldn't have survived if the whole plot was just kill the Shadow Man. It was men looking introspectively on themselves. It was men looking at their mirror and coming to terms with their sins, their follies. Chaos was all about, fighting your inner demons, fighting the savagery of man. And, the chaotic world that rests just beneath the surface of but in Dark Ether, what's the narrative theme here? In BO6, I can't really tell you. I feel like if you want to do this, you got to tie it in better. You got to have each map relate to a character. World War II did this pretty well, despite how thin it can be, where World War II tries to connect each character to a different map alongside BO3. Darkest Shore was Drosten's map. Final Reich was Marie's map. Tortured Path gave a lot of lore to Jefferson. Olivia gets a lot of lore spread out between Shadow Throne and Tortured Path. They all have a reason to be here. They all have vendettas and purposes. And making Richtofen the focal point is fine, but I'm not seeing enough of that. Like, there's extremely important intel, like on Citadel, for example, where Carver is holding Weaver together, and it's just weird that's not on any of the maps, like in there, like right in front of the player. It's something you have to search for. And that goes into a whole other issue with the intel system in this game and the lore and the way it's when you break it down.
It's a big step down from Cold War, the intel.
Absolutely. Don't even get me started. Cold War's narrative was interesting, but I love it to death. I think it explored its characters very well. It just didn't have them on the map. It didn't have them in person fighting the things and reacting to them in real time. I think you could be giving these characters some arcs. You have Weaver coming to terms with the fact that, Weaver and Carver come to terms with the fact that, like, the people that they believed in for so long have just turned against them. You could have Gray, having her mind blown, being in the field of the things that she has to watch now, the horrors of, like, the, instruments of death that she helped create and, try and stop. You could have Strauss, just reminiscing on, like, being in World War II and how warfare has evolved. You can have Maya thinking about, like, how far she's come in her adventure, and is, like, all this murder and death really the right option? Like, how many more people need to suffer for a happy ending? But we don't get any of that. I think the Maya cutscene in Citadel was the closest that we got, and Maya's cutscenes in Terminus. But there's just not enough right there. Like, I think the parts where it really matters. Someone said this to me last night. A bad story can be brought up by good characters. A good story can be brought down by bad characters.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually, not to like argue fully against you.
Absolutely,
but, like,
no, please go for it.
I don't understand why Carver is here. I don't understand why.
Yeah, exactly. Why are they here?
Why is Maya still here? Just because she wants to be? Like, I often get comments like on my videos and stuff when I talk about the story. Like for example, in Citadel, I brought up the whole Maya thing. I was like, okay, it's great. She got her revenge. She killed Franco or whatever his name is, and that's cool. But like, what else? What's next? Like, the reason the like, okay, sorry, a lot of things coming in my head at once. So the reason the cinematic inside of Ancient Evil worked, the in-game, the mid-game cinematic, is because that Bruno kills Shaw, turns him into the evil version of himself, and it's something that only those two characters can experience when you're playing, which means it's like subverting, and it's subverting expectations of the story. It's creating a conditional that they're evil and they're going against the two good people, and they're all on the same team. So it's creating internal conflict, and I think that it also adds to this story overall. But I think Treyarch is just like, okay, in Ancient Evil we had a mid-game cutscene. People love the mid-game cutscene. People love the mid-game boss fight from Setsubo. And they're just like pulling all these things that they did well from the past games, but they don't actually understand why they worked so well.
Yep.
It's not that you had a mid-game cutscene, it's that you had a special moment for two characters who were doing something subversive to the hero's journey that we
adds
were
a
on.
whole new dynamic to the team, with Shaw being on their side now. Like, now you have the two most, on the inside, weak-willed people being controlled by something that's not even themselves anymore.
Exactly.
And you get Diego, being the only one to witness the information swap between Medusa and Scarlet. You have, Scarlet completely comatose by the end of it. Like, it leaves Ancient Evil in a really interesting place.
Yeah.
But then, you look at here, like, we're not seeing, like, any risk being taken. And that's where we'll get into question 4.
Yeah, it was a good transition.
Yeah.
It's like you've done this before.
I know, a bit of a pro around here, but let's let's talk about a big question that I saw brought up. I forget who brought this up. Do you remember who brought this up on Twitter? It might have been Expert, it might have been Chopper. Someone brought up that BO6 wasn't taking enough risk, and that's what made me like really think about this video and really think about like this question, the whole like purpose of this.
I don't know who brought it up.
I can't remember. Yeah, I wish I saved it. It was like something I just saw in a glance, and I was like, and then I messaged you. So, but this is a big issue with BO6 in general. I think the best place to start is in the story. Do you feel that BO6 is taking enough risk? And I think I know the answer, but for the sake of posterity.
I mean, no, I'd say overall no, but at the same time, kinda, because they brought like the ice staff and the chaos story, and they made a small map. Like in a way, they kind of are taking risks. They're just weird risks.
Exactly. And that's what I want to get at. They're very weird risks. They're half measures. They're taking risk in these interesting directions where we want to see what happened to the Chaos Crew. You know what? Sure, wrap it into the Dark Ether lore. They've set it up enough where they can make the Chaos gods be the Dark Ether gods, and set it up so that, like, you set up the trials as these time-stopping events. You can easily wrap it in that Scarlet and the gang are just trapped in time, like the way the people in Ancient Evil are trapped in time. You can absolutely do that. But why isn't enough steps being taken? You have like all these different elements, but none of them are being used properly. You have the Sentinel artifact attacking people inconsistently. You have the characters, they keep dodging the question of where these characters are. Like, is that supposed to be the mystery of like where Shaw and Scarlet are? Because they get mentioned in Intel. Like, okay, you've mentioned them. Great. Are you gonna do anything with that? Or are we just gonna sit here and be like, that's Alistair Rhodes! I know who that is!
When I studied the writings of Alistair Rhodes, an amateur demonologist and personal hero of mine. Alistair Rhodes! About different objects.
Like, I that's cool. But then, like, once the euphoria of that washes away, what substance is there for me to look at and dive into?
So let me just kind of like, obviously I can't give the real answer to that question, but I want to kind of build off of that. Treyarch is not taking risk in the sense that they're, how do I want to say this?
Yep.
They're not taking the risk in the sense that they want to follow through with what they believe this game should be. That, like, even in the think about to the Xbox showcase in Black Ops 6, okay? They were like, this is an honoring of the entire Black Ops franchise. We're bringing back Prestige. We got the pick. Oh, I don't know if it's I forget what the system is. Like, we're bringing this system from Cold War, from MP, and we're building off the Cold War campaign, and because round based is back, baby, and like and then even the Prestige grind, you get like classic weapons from the old games, like the VMP, the Tommy gun. They're giving you member berries with the World at War screens and all. Like, it's an homage to the entire Black Ops series. In the Zombies storyline, kind of parallels that in a lot of ways. It's a homage to Chaos, to Ether, and then to Dark Ether, I guess. And so my point is, one of my biggest critiques of Cold War was, I didn't feel like the game found its identity, and I was like, man, I really hope BO6 brings home that identity for zombies, and I don't feel like this game has its identity. So the risk is just be yourself. Treyarch just has to be authentic to what their message is for this game, to what their purpose is for this game. And here's the thing. I don't know if that's possible anymore because of how monumental this franchise is. Like Activision, Shanghai, Raven, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer. I'm sure there's another dev in there that I'm not even thinking of. There are so many cooks in this kitchen. How do you even come up with a core unified vision to deliver on what the game is about when you're not even all together?
Yeah, and it's a bigger failing of and that's why you can hear the Activision dev saying to himself, oh, let's make a unified system that we keep updating every year, and a unified game hub so that you can always jump back into the narrative. But let's also choose 4 completely different time periods in 4 years. You've got the 80s. Cool. How do you follow that up? Oh, we go back to World War II. Well, how do you follow that up? Oh, we go to modern day. What? How do you follow that up? You go back to the 90s. Am I just brain dead, or am I just not seeing the money signs that they're seeing? Because it's I think it completely shoots themselves in I don't think they want that. I don't think Treyarch writers want that. You have to follow up Cold War with a prequel that takes place in Vanguard, so they try and write it the best way that they can, and they take liberties with it. They introduce Dark Ether gods. They get a little more crazy with it. That game at least had an identity where Cold Wars was lacking, so they said let's take that and we'll work forward from that. MWZ was, well, we're on a budget, let's at least do something that feels more MWZ inspired, or MW3 inspired. So they did that. Okay. BO6 is now, how do we take all these pieces and put them together? And they're really not. That's the biggest takeaway. Cortifex keeps getting mentioned by name. Cortifex is nowhere to be seen so far. Zykov is mentioned by name, nowhere to be seen. The Chaos Lore, it's there. Alistair Rhodes is a name that is said by many people and by himself, and Scarlet and Shaw are people that are mentioned by name. But where are they? Richtofen, another character mentioned by name, not there. And then the 4 actual playable characters that we play as could literally just be 4 milsim operators at this point.
Yeah, they literally could.
Which is extremely sad.
None of the... I'm just going to say this as a Chaos lover. I love... if you haven't seen my content, I'm a BO4 shill.
Dude, your background's really Black Ops 4.
Yeah, it is. I forgot to change it. I didn't even mean to. I was just trying to put up something cool. But the point is, the chaos story doesn't matter for this. Even if you injected all the chaos lore, we had the Odin Eye boss fight on every map, and I was super stoked that every other map was a Blood of the Dead remaster too. Even if you had everything from BO4 in this game, or everything from the Ether in this game, or Dark, whatever the hell, all the cool story stuff that we've experienced, it doesn't matter to the key point that Weaver, Carver, and Gray, and Strauss, and Raptor 1 are seeking retribution against Richtofen.
Yep.
None of that matters to get Maxis.
Yeah, that should be the primary focus. And it's for some reason, for some ungodly reason, it just isn't. And it, we also talk about the unfortunate, AI strikes. Is that an issue right now? We talk about how terrible it is that is that a big issue with why this is being caused? I sure as hell hope not. I hope this is just a writing mistake. And if it's something outside of their hands and they have to listen to us talk about this and all they can think is, we want to, we just can't.
We understand.
That's the best case scenario, is that's what's the case is, but I just don't think that's what the case is. I think that because even if we ignore, we'll get to the outro cutscene. Even if we ignore the outro cutscene, there are character quotes. That should be the time where that's being used to evolve the character. Yes. Yeah. If you're gonna do it, that's the place to do it. And I'm not seeing that from them. They're not doing it. And then
I don't think they've done it at all. And no. I don't. Well, I don't think they've done any of evolution with the character quotes in any of the maps. To be quite honest, they're one step below. I don't even think they're good jokes, but they're one step below the cheeky Dempsey jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a couple that were funny. I'm imagining every headshot's Richtofen or Richtofen, or I don't remember exactly what it is from Terminus.
That's the quote. Good job.
Yeah, something like that. I got half of it, but the point is that's the only one I even kind of remember, and it just doesn't feel like any of the characters have any purpose to be here. I could give 30 better potential storylines off the top of my head, which is not good because I'm an idiot. So it's we need Craig Houston and his team to step up and just do what you do, boy. Like, boy, I was gonna call him a boy. He's like a 60-year-old man.
Yeah, and I hate to even give them any excuse, but it's like, are they being limited? Are they not allowed to? Like, are they not allowed to get like, extremely edgy with the jokes? And I don't want to give them an excuse at all. It's an interesting question to ask. Speaking of, it's just like, that's another issue. You can't just say it's like, oh, it's the new team. Treyarch's been a pretty consistent team for a long time. A lot of their, lead devs have been with them since, long time. So you can't just say it's passing of the new guard, because most of the guys are the old guys.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that's true.
It's a little bit of both. That seems to be like the main consensus. It's always going to be a little bit of both, no matter what.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to not talk about the cutscene. I just had a couple of things to add.
We'll lead right into that. Absolutely, keep going.
So the cutscene, I just think it's weird. It just doesn't feel very zombies-y. I saw Milo's take of it, not to copy his take, but he made a good point. He was like, it feels like an MWZ cutscene, like with the graphics or the the milsim like aerial view and like the digitized stuff like flying at you. And I get it's supposed to be like the AI thing, which, can we just talk about how ironic it is that the AI
don't
is
get
the
me started.
boogeyman?
They had to have written Sam as like some kind of please tell me that's what the commentary is, because if that is, that's at least like they got some bite to their bark, and like if that's the case, that's hilarious.
That is pretty ironic.
And I hate to say it, I don't want to be like mean, but I also think that might just be an accidental stumble. Like, it's working.
It could be.
I think it might be them landing on it at the right time. But anyways, it's really funny. And like the first part of the cutscene is their 3D models reaching for the artifact. They're like,
I know.
And then it just
like,
cuts to the camera pulling them out, which then makes me think, did they not have time to do the pre-render? Does the strikes prevent them from doing a pre-rendered cutscene? Because that was the only part that was done in 3D rather than like grabbing it in like a pre-rendered cutscene. So was that an artistic vision? Was that a budget limit? Was that like they couldn't get the actors in the studio? Which I'm not too sure about that, because the pre-rendered cutscenes are usually done months, if not years in advance, because of how expensive they are.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was my main thought. I like it though. I think the Sam stuff is cool. I just wish that like the character stuff was what really needed to shine. I'm not seeing it. Like that's like a big moment where it's missing the character.
I agree. I like betrayal. So if this is leading towards Sam like betraying us, or like hopefully Maya betrays us some way in shape or form, or I don't know. I just I want it to lead to betrayal and to messing with people's heads and stuff like that. Yes. That's what made the ether so fun, is Richtofen saying quotes over and over again. But
like do something interesting. Like just give me a twist that's gonna like make me feel engaged in the story. Have the characters reflect on these decisions and like. Croft's dead, and I think the one line from Richtofen in Citadel, or Weaver in Citadel, is like, he's your what? He has to grapple now with the mortality.
That was a good line.
Yes, he has to grapple with the mortality that, this, at the end of the day, these are, sons to fathers. This is a man who lost his family. Richtofen, lost everything. That's why he's trying so hard to get it back, no matter who he crosses. But it's like, I'm not seeing that in the Tomb. That would have been the perfect place for Weaver. Like, this would be a perfect Weaver map to reflect on it and literally have the idea of diving deeper and deeper into the Dark Ether. We dive deeper and deeper into Weaver's psyche, but we don't. Like, I think it's a perfect like analogy.
What if like we learned more about Weaver's regrets about killing his family, Richtofen's family, and
we haven't heard him say anything about that.
No, like what if he was saying that that was one of my darkest moments. I'm not proud of that, and it's like it makes me question if I should even go after him. And then Carver's like, don't wise up, soldier, or like whatever. Yeah. We're killing that son of a bitch. He had the option to be better than us, to be better than what happened that day, and he locked us in prison for 5 years. He had the choice to keep us in, to have us help him and to work towards recovery, but he didn't. And that's why we're getting our lives back. Something like that. And I don't think I see enough of that. And that's stuff that's really important to making us care about these characters. Ignore if they're funny or not. I could care less if they're funny or not. But it's like... Yeah, that's not a big deal to me.
That's not a big deal to me, yeah. It's just like, I just want to see them just be people. And I'm just not seeing that.
And as far as the cutscene, like, length and depth and all that stuff of the cinematic and lines, again, this is a double-edged sword, right? So it's like on one hand, it's like, okay, well, we want these survival maps that are fun and engaging and have quick quests, and we can just kind of grind around 120 minutes or whatever it is with the ice staff in the corner. Sounds great, but that's like if you're gonna do that map, Treyarch, which I fully accept, maybe don't make it the follow-up to getting the Sentinel artifact from Citadel. Like maybe we should have resolved some stuff with the Dark Ether with Pericles Panos and that crew who got stuck in there. Maybe this map could have had more to do with that, and then the dig site / Dark Ether Nexus area or whatever it's called. Maybe that was like season 3's map, and that it was exponentially bigger. We have a full-on cutscene where we see stuff about Richtofen, because like we need to learn about Richtofen. Like, what the hell is going on? What is he doing? Is he just chilling in a lawn chair in the Dark Ether? Like what is going on?
The fact that it's like we have at minimum 5 characters trapped in the Dark Ether. Richtofen and the 4 strike team that are trapped there. Why didn't we see them like as lost souls drifting through the Dark Ether? We're finally in this place, and it's just like they're gonna be like, oh, I don't know, they're just doing nothing. Like what they're doing? Like ugh.
I don't know.
It makes me annoyed. I want to like. That's where you can connect those two storylines, and at least like, oh, now we have to deal with Panos too, and Richtofen's like, maybe Panos is the greater enemy since he's being controlled by Zykov or something, because it's implied that he has a voice talking in his head. Hey, you know what? I didn't even think about this. Maybe he has the Order Eye on him. I don't know. Maybe he's revived by the Staff of Ra. That's how he's alive in the Dark Ether. Just if you're gonna tie it together, just start making big knots. And I'm not just it's like all these different pieces are all scattered about. And just like you said, it's stacking on top of itself. The cake is getting heavier, and the foundation that they built in Cold War wasn't made to support all of that.
It is. I'm sure you've played Jenga. It's a Jenga tower.
Yep.
And we're one brick from everything tumbling over.
I love that. You keep taking the pieces out, you keep putting them on top, you're taking old stuff out, and when's it gonna topple over? I love that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to move on to question 5? Because I actually have some.
Yes, that was my thoughts on 4. Unless you got more thoughts on 4, then let's move on to 5.
No, 5 I think is a good place to go.
Yeah. So we've talked about this. I think we mostly got into that, but it's like, why do we think people are mixed on this map? And those were a lot of reasons. It's inconsistent. It's not risk-taking enough. It's doing stuff in some areas, but not enough in the right areas that would satisfy some people. Like, for example, there's a lot of mixed messaging. You've got like Origins lay motifs being played. You've got an Origins Wonder Weapon. You have narrative devices that imply that like Origins is supposed to be this, it's supposed to be a follow-up to Origins in some way, shape, or form. It's not. Why is that in any, like, I can understand people being upset about that. Why is that in any way how you want to bulk up this map? I don't get that.
It's just because they said dig site. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, Ravenov said dig site. That is Origins. It's like, bro, it doesn't have to. You guys could have written. Oh my god, I can't speak. You guys could have written something else. You didn't have to write dig site. You could have. You like Treyarch. You guys own the story. Like I want to let you know, this is, you guys have written this. You don't have to go to a place anywhere. You don't want to go. Yeah.
It's like, are they mixed between like trying to get people involved by like member berry stuff? And it's like, by the way, when they said like, oh, it's in the dig site, and people were like, Origins Part 2, I'm like, they're not gonna do that. He said dig site. Yeah. Like, they're like, what are they, dumb enough to make that an Origins? No, they did that actually, and they included Origins lay motifs, and they included the ice staff. Like, oh, they did do that. Okay. So I felt stupid, but
well, I mean, it's not like Origins at all, but they did have some nods, which
they just had nods, like really weird nods and out of place nods.
Well, here, let's okay, all right, I have some questions. We've talked a lot about the story. I just want to have a couple questions about gameplay. So like, we've seen the ray gun on every single map. Like, there's no real reason. Well, actually, I don't know. Is there a reason for the original ray gun? I actually don't really know that. But
Max's creation? I don't remember. Go on.
Well, it was in Noct, so it's like.
Is it Noct? Yeah,
I don't know.
They just gave it some little lore after that. Who cares? Go on.
The point is, like, is seeing the ice staff similar to like seeing the ray gun Mark II, or similar to seeing the ray gun in every map? Like, is it going to become something like that where it's just, I don't know, kind of
maybe that's what they were trying to pull, was that idea. Like, people always get hyped for the ray gun Mark II. Maybe they're like, all right, let's see if we can get that same kind of hype with the ice staff.
By the way, somewhat. Oh,
no,
go ahead, sorry.
please finish your thought. I was talking. Remind me to talk about the PPSH in a second.
Okay, PPSH.
So I got some thoughts. I got some thoughts on that in a minute.
It's just like there's some wonder weapons that get a pass. Like the ray guns get a pass, the ray gun Mark IIs get a pass, the thunder guns get a pass. Like some weapons just get a pass. I don't really know why it's okay for like the thunder gun to be reused in like a bunch of different maps, and same with the ray guns. But like the ice staff comes back. A Wonderwaff, like why just? I mean, it's okay. It's just interesting that they're more considered acceptable. But then we see this, and it's like, no, that's not allowed.
I think it goes back to our point earlier, where just some people just like it. People just want it to be like, if you're gonna have one, it's got to be all four. You can't go halfsies on that idea.
I do think that's
and then that also
feeling.
pisses off the other half of the people that are like, well, why are we doing 2 wonder weapon maps in a row? Because people then quote like Ancient Evil to Alpha Omega, which had 4 wonder weapons in a row. People hated the Mark II elements on Alpha Omega,
which were so good, but whatever.
I love yeah, it's okay. No, it's weird. And then let me go back to PPSH now. Again, mixed marketing. We're bringing back a classic SMG. You can't unlock it without buying a bundle. What? It's not on a wall. It's not in the box. It's not in the box. It's not anywhere. It's just buy a bundle. Yeah. That pisses me off. Maybe it is in the box. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they do that post launch. Regardless, that pisses me off. We're bringing back the PPSH. You guys better get ready for that. And it's a bundle buy. And it's not like you have to get unlocked in an event. Okay.
Well, not only that, the PPSH thing, but how they mark. I actually got a little bit of push on this. I was surprised on one of my videos. But the fact that the opening scene for the trailer is the skins of the crew in like the Tomb gear. Like I don't know if you remember the initial trailer has Weaver with that like mummy eye, like the white eye patch, and
the one in the battle pass.
Yeah, it's the battle pass skins. It's like that's their outfits in the trailer. For a split second, my mind was like, "Oh, sick! They have like a new getup for this map." But then I was like, "Oh wait, no, I'm gonna have to pay for that." And it's frustrating because like in 9, the characters had a whole new wardrobe that fit narratively, and then it kind of clicked on me like this is never gonna happen again. Like we're never gonna get outfit changes or wardrobe changes, whatever you want to call it, for a new map ever again. And I know I actually posted this on Twitter, and I, getting mixed signals, but somebody said, well, they didn't ever change wardrobes again inside of BO4. And I was like, yeah, but you had a different crew on every single map almost. You had Victus, Ultimus, Primus, and Ultimus on the same map, the Chaos crew in a different outfit. The only time it repeated was from Voyage to
Ancient Evil.
Ancient Evil. That was the only...
Yes! Yeah.
It was the only one. So that 100%. Stuff... I think is frustrating. Do you I've gotten a lot of comments about the main quest being tedious. What do you feel about like the ice staff upgrade process and the main quest itself? Do you think this is another reason why people are mixed on the map? Or
yeah, it is. It's a very weird map. The Easter egg quest is like some steps are inconsistently hard. Like unlocking the ice staff is absurd. Have you tried and trained in that? Or like just like give me your thoughts on unlocking that ice staff. Or like you put it in that weird altar, and it just starts spawning just a crap ton of zombies and parasites and vermin.
It's hard. It's pretty hard.
It's weirdly like difficult for some reason. I was trying to figure out why it was. Whereas other steps are like just weird, where it's like, oh yeah, freeze 3 fires. Okay, people will do that in less than 10 seconds. Like what?
That step I think is a little too strict. I think it should.
It was literally made just so, because I know why. It was made just so it would slow people down on day one. Because that was the only thing that slowed people down.
Yeah,
was that because we couldn't figure out how to upgrade the ice staff because of that. Like Noah's team figured it out first, I think, and they just happened to go to the boss fight super early. Because once you figure out that one like ice staff step, everything else kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I was really hoping that we were gonna freeze the crystals. Like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and then timing it.
Timing it's stupid. Do something. It maybe make it a specific order.
Yes,
or
yeah.
like maybe there's another constellation that pops up inside of the dark ether that we have to put together. You can see like once you clear the first two constellations and upgrade the ice staff, you can look into the sky and there's like I don't know any constellations, guys, so just like get off my back for a second. There's like Aries and then Orion and I don't know, the Big Dipper or something, and there's like 3 ones that just spawn every game, and we have to pick the right one, and then that tells us the 3 chandeliers we have to shoot rather than it being a 10-second timer. Like I think that's a little lame. But overall, I said this in my other video, I think that that Liberty Falls and the Tomb actually have better quests than Terminus and Citadel. Not because let me clear this up, because nobody seems to understand what I'm talking about. Not in terms of like the length and the journey to get to the boss fight, but in terms of the gameplay mechanics that lead to like 0 difficulty all the way up to the final encounter. I think it's a smoother curve. Like Liberty Falls, not to get too deep in the weeds, but I just think it's a really smooth gameplay curve leading up to that ending encounter. And I think while the Tomb is harder, I think it's that same thing. It's like upgrading the ice staff, doing all those lockdowns, surviving. You get a little bit of a break once you upgrade the ice staff, but now you're OP, so now you can survive all of those other lockdowns regarding the sacrifices you have to make, and then you get to the boss fight. It's like a really smooth curve. And I just like those types of gameplay mechanics. I like a little bit of RNG, shooting the chandeliers to kind of move things around to make them to your benefit. Like I like that stuff. I think that's fun zombies gameplay design, and I know it's hard, but guys, like I don't want to play a zombies map once and then be done until March. Like I want to play this a few times and I want to fail. I want to die. I want to be pissed off like when I'm playing Elden Ring and I get one-shotted by a boss, and I'm pissed, and I'm like, I'm never effing playing this game again. And then I go to sleep, and I wake up in the morning, and that's all I can think about. Like, that's... Yeah. I love that. And I got a comment from a dude, I'm not, like, calling you out or anything if you happen to see this, but he was saying, like, no, I want to beat the map on my first try. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but, like, I disagree. And he made a comment about, like, okay, well, if they had like Elden Ring, if you could just die and then respawn into the boss a second later, instead of doing the whole quest, he's like, maybe I'd agree with that. But he's like, no, I want to beat it on my first try. And I was just like, dude, I could agree. Maybe there's like a gobble gum that could do that effect or not. But the whole point of a zombies map is like it takes a whole like video game's main quest concept and like jams it into one map experience. And then we unravel all the features and the secrets and stuff. And that's supposed to last us a good amount of time until the next content drop. Like, I just don't understand why people want to chew through everything so fast.
I agree.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. The only like argument I'm going to give to it just for fun is like I don't think it's as smooth of a curve. I think unlocking the ice staff and upgrading it is absurdly difficult, and just due to how powerful the ice staff is, the challenge, like the trials are piss easy, and the boss fights again hard. But that's argument for argument's sake. But I think in a perfect world, an egg can do 2 things. It can tell an intense narrative experience, and it can be fun and replayable and difficult, and it can drive people to complete it on their first try. It can drive people to want to, like, who aren't as good to try and struggle at it for billions of times, and there's no perfect balance for that. Every egg tries something different, and it's also different skill levels.
That's
for guys
true.
like you and I, we can beat most of these eggs in the blink of an eye. There are people right now that are, even like, even you said right now with the Tomb, you're trying to beat it again. That's fun to you. Whereas to me, I just did it last night in solo, and I thought it was fun. I'm going to keep replaying because I think it's great and a lot of fun to play. And there are some people that are going to play it once, hate the difficulty, and never play it again. Whereas there are some people that will think to themselves, man, I like Liberty Falls a lot. That was really easy. I'm going to replay that again for some fun. You want to run the Eggman? I know how to do that. So it's always trying to hit different balances. Terminus, I think, is one of my like favorite eggs right now. It is a narrative-driven egg. It tells a story. It has characters constantly fighting. You've got Modi pulling switches. You've got a halfway point with Nathan. Thank you. I'm blanking on his name. It's not good on me. Nathan. And you've got this character moment with Maya, and then you've got the boss fight being a concept that I think that they've been wanting to tackle since Zetsubo no Shima with the Kraken. I thought it was so cool. I still love it. I think it's so, like, the way it ramps up perfectly. But again, it's different expectations for different people. And that's another big thing, too. A lot of people get different things out of every experience. Some people think that BO6 is going to have a BO3 map for every single DLC. Some people saw the blog post and they even admitted this is a smaller experience. And that was enough for some people. For some people, they say a blog post shouldn't dictate, a paragraph shouldn't dictate how expansive we should expect a map to be. And they're right. Maybe it shouldn't. But when you get down to it, there are just some things that are going to tick more people off than others. Some people want a BO3 cutscene. That's their entire endgame. They watch it on YouTube, and if the cutscene sucks, they are never touching that map ever.
Yeah.
The map sucks. It's the worst map ever. And maybe it's not. I don't know. But I think it's... I hate to say that the best answer is there are too many answers, but I think that's the biggest case, is that there are way too many answers to decide. So, personally, let's narrow it down then. What do you think people are most unhappy about that makes it so mixed? Let's try and define it to one issue that you think makes people the most mad.
I think you kind of nailed it in the middle of the
my word vomit, yeah.
Of your ending thoughts there, but was mostly the delivery from Treyarch. Like I just think that the setup from Citadel, the marketing of the blog post, the concept of using all these different storylines mixed together, it just created a confusing set of expectations. Also, we've never really received a survival map as like a DLC map before. This is kind of almost the first time that's really ever happened that I can think
besides
of.
like usual like launch maps where it's like, you get your giant, you get your Roasting House, you get your classified.
Yeah.
Like this is the first time this has kind of been done like this. Whereas like at least Cold War, by the time we got to like Firebase Z, the expectation was, okay, they're all going to play like this. They're all going to be like smaller scale. Whereas with this, we got Terminus, we got Citadel, we got, Liberty Falls. So people, I think, expected it to keep ramping up. I saw one comment when I made the post on Twitter we're going to get to in too soon. Someone said, I want every single Zombies map to keep improving upon itself and make better and better. And I don't think that's realistic, but for some people, that's what they expect. Let me grab my cat and keep talking.
Yeah, I just think it's mostly mixed messaging, and I also think that despite people saying, "Oh, I want Treyarch to stop catering to the casual player," "Oh, I want zombies to be harder," I don't actually think they really want that, because it's like this map does that, and everybody's annoyed with the difficulty. So
yes,
I just think that there's a lot of just confusion with the map. I just think it was for what players expected in their head of delivering on this Richthofen storyline, getting the Sentinel artifact, and and bringing the Ice Staff and all these weird things with the Chaos story for what it turned out to be. I just think it doesn't match. But if you if you cut all that fat, if you cut all the noise away, you forget about the blog post, you forget about the DLC standards, which I know is hard to do. If you just kind of look at the map in a vacuum, it's a really fun experience. Like, the gameplay is super fun. It's really pretty. I love just running around and killing stuff and just using the Ice Staff to just like kill entire hordes. I think it's really, really great. I love the quest. I know we have some disagreements about the the difficulty and all that stuff and the execution of it, but I think it's great. Like, it's the type of quest that I like. But I understand that it's just meant to be like an appetizer, not a main course. But the thing is, like I said 47 times, it appeared like it was going to be a main course, and then it was an appetizer. And I just think that created confusion in people's minds, and they think it sucks. Plus, people already hate the war zonification of BO6 or whatever word you want to use for that. I don't like to use that word, but it's kind of apt. And so it's just another thing to like add onto this pile of corpses that is Black Ops 6 Zombies, no pun intended.
Yeah. I love all that what you said right there. I think that's great. I think the Tomb is just kind of this perfect storm of being at the right place at the right time for all of this to kind of start piling on it.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, Treyarch just wanted to deliver a smaller experience that gets them to the artifact. So then, real quick, just a little bit of a sidebar. Something that I thought recently was, why, if this is an issue, then maybe what does a world look like where Citadel and the Tomb are merged? Like, underneath, the castle is like pretty much this map, and you can merge the amulet. Maybe is the halfway point, or maybe just cut the crap and the Sentinel artifact just there at the bottom of the castle.
Probably
and you can like
one
kind
of the best maps of all time.
Yeah. So then I guess the main theme of that is going to be, is quantity over quality better? And by the end of the season, we're going to see if that like what they're trying to do pays off, because if you want to tell a map with more story beats, more character beats, this is absolutely the way to do it. And I can see the vision, but the way things are panning out, it just didn't pan out right. Maybe with the actors, maybe with the AI strike, maybe just with the writing decisions, maybe with just, you know, the developers just not, like, you know, not, what's the term? Looking through the weeds.
Seeing the forest through the trees.
Yeah, thank you. Like, they're stuck in the weeds and they're not seeing the forest through the trees, whatever. Basically,
yeah, that's right.
They're too caught up in like some of these other details and just missing ones that are a bit more important to care about. And in their own defense, real quick, it is easy to say, well, why is this map smaller when we got, you know, 6 massive maps during BO3? Games are harder to develop nowadays. These games go through intense, almost disgusting development cycles. They turn into completely different products from beginning to end. And I'm always willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. At the end of the day, though, you pay with your wallet. If you don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt, then don't give them the benefit of the doubt. If you want to see it improve, this is a great way to get into the discussion of it. This is a great way to talk about it. Because, hey, we all love zombies, and we want to see it improve. I don't want to see it just crash and burn and say it's the worst map ever, and now Treyarch doesn't know what people want. Constructive feedback is always important.
Yeah. And I just want to say to people is, like, I feel like Treyarch always gets the short end of the stick when it comes to development. You know, Black Ops 3 was made in 9 months, allegedly. Luckily, it ended up doing well. Black Ops 4 got, you know, shit on with its development cycle, cut short.
It got gutted halfway through.
Gutted. And then Cold War, they had to take over that development, and it was COVID. And then now Black Ops 6 comes out, and it's supposed to be this next great thing, and then halfway through there's like some AI controversy.
Because Activision can't get their shit together. You've got like people like constantly like guessing over bundles. Like they're fighting like, oh, is this AI? Is this AI? Activision, what are we doing here? This is like almost like just stupid. I get you want to line your pockets, but like it, and I you know, it's easy for me to say I'm the bottom guy at the totem pole, but it's like, if you make products that are well made and you space them out, you get a God of War that wins, you know, awards every 3 years. You know, COD's a bestseller. You get your short-term return. Great. But don't you guys want to be Game of the Year every couple of years? Don't you want to be the cream of the crop? No, that's not their goal.
I don't think they do.
Their goal is to pump out a game every year. And you know what? As content creators and as fans, we can either accept that, we can push for change. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe this is the crap we're stuck with. And if, you know, if you feel like the game shouldn't be that way, then keep talking that way. Be constructive about it. Because I bet the developers care about it just as much as we do.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
And the to kind of put an olive branch to fans, because like I know I've been kind of like arguing with people on Twitter and trying to push against certain ideas. Like I do that because I genuinely do like to argue with people to like learn and stuff. But I just want to say, like, Treyarch doesn't owe you anything. Like hold on. You don't owe anything to Treyarch. You're a customer. Like Treyarch, they might be doing this, you know, like I see a lot of people saying, oh, the maps are free or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but you have to pay a $70 price tag or a Game Pass subscription or whatever it is. And then you get into the Call of Duty theme park. But you are a paying customer. It's just like Treyarch isn't doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. I'm sure they're passionate and they love the mode, but they have families to feed and they have a mortgage and all that stuff. So we have every right to criticize Treyarch, but like Stanley is saying, bring the feedback constructively, and also have justifications, kind of like what I was alluding to at the beginning of the podcast. Bring your criticisms to light, but justify them. Don't just say the map sucks because I staff bad. Like, actually explain yourself. Explain why this doesn't work. Maybe it's the narrative. Maybe it's the mechanics. Whatever it is. And like, I know Treyarch's always getting shit on, like we were just saying. Seems like they always, when it's their turn, when it rains, it pours. So I just want to say there's so many factors as to why this map could be considered problematic. I get you. But overall, I do think it is a good experience, and I think it's going to be looked back upon like when we're 3-4 years away from this game. I think people are going to look back and be like, the Tomb is just so fun to just run around and
jump
just
in and just, play. Yeah. I mean, again, like I think back to BO3. BO3 was the biggest community shitstorm that people like to pretend didn't happen. Everyone was pissed off. Every map that came out, people were so upset. Zetsubo was like the worst experience they had ever played. Gorod Krovi was a complete shit show. You've got like people unhappy with Shadows of Evil and it's too complicated. And here we are now. It's the best game of all time. Who knows what the future's going to look like? Maybe fans of it will be weeded out. That people who don't like it and people who do like it will be the only ones around to talk about it. Who knows?
Yeah. We're seeing that with Black Ops 4.
Oh, I've been waiting for my time in the sun finally. Now, sadly, the light shone on Dead of the Night and not Voyage of Despair. I made the hard prediction that Voyage would be BO4 Shadows, but that was Dead of the Night. And every day,
I think that's probably fair. Yeah.
No, it's fair, but personally, I'm just no, it's not fair at all. Actually, I think it's a crime that I think my map. Hold on, let me pull out my 3D printed Kraken. I think my map, this one, the one with the triple barrel cannon, should be the one that's the community golden child.
I wish I could see it. I'll have to see it when the final recording goes up. But
yeah,
it looks cool.
No, I love the thing. I love it. But regardless, yeah, no, it's gonna, maybe it'll happen in Black Ops 6. Maybe at the end of the day, though, I think it's important to keep the endpoint being keep the discussion healthy. That's the biggest point. And again, if you're not happy, don't pay for it. Yeah. Don't, speak with your wallet. And I know that's such a dumb thing to do because when people were boycotting Black Cell, Call of Duty was still like the number 3 most best-selling game on Steam, and Black Cell was the most selling like attachment to a game. I don't know. Maybe we're just stuck in this forever. So if you don't like zombies anymore, then go, like as Renzaru said, go find something else to play. And I know it sucks seeing like your favorite franchise get dragged through the mud. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to shill the game either. At the end of the day, maybe a product sucks. I'm just having a good time with it because I always have a good time with these games. If you don't have a good time, then yeah, just be constructive about it. Yeah. So that's probably the best way to lead into part 6, the viewer mail portion. I picked a couple of comments, but these were like a general consensus for what people found that they didn't like about the map, and hopefully it picks up on a few points we didn't talk about. Okay. So first, from the film in Game 1, he says, misinformation and the false expectation it causes within the community. And we touched upon that a lot. Are there any additional thoughts that you have with that?
Not really. I do think it's a valid point, but I will say to kind of to be a little bit of an antagonist, Treyarch didn't really market it as the opposite. They didn't market it that it would really be that small, but they didn't market it that it would be huge either. They just kind of didn't say anything, which I think is telling. Yeah. Like there was no intro cutscene. I think that says enough. Yeah, that like agreed. Maybe like halfway through development they thought, let's split Citadel into 2 maps. Citadel's the bigger of the 2, and then the Tomb is the smaller of the 2. And then we can do some extra theory. We can do some extra ideas where it's like, let's do now we can add Dark Ether portion that we wouldn't have been able to add. We can go full in on the Tomb aspect, make it its own map, not just tied to the castle. Yeah. Dude, why are you biting on the metal hinges of the door? Those aren't yummy. Because he's awesome.
Yeah, Bean. Anyways, yeah, like, maybe we can make it so that, you get the artifact and the Sentinel artifact, the amulet and the Sentinel artifact. We can split that into 2. So, I don't know. Maybe that's what they went for. And then people just got a little too excited. It was revealed on 1.15 day. Oh, it's got to be this next big thing. And it wasn't, which I can understand people being disappointed by that.
Yeah. It's justified.
Yeah. Question number 2 comes from the fan favorite of mine, the Carborium, the intel and the lore. So I guess we didn't really go too much into the intel, but especially in BO6, the intel has been a very touchy subject. In Cold War, it was too much. In BO6, it's not enough. And on this map, the intel was more or less centered around a crap ton of Archibald radios and Alistair Rhodes, which we talked mostly about the way that they've been teasing the Chaos storyline, not taking big enough leaps besides just wrapping it all around the artifact, and that's inconsistent regardless. So the artifact could just be any object.
Yeah, they need to commit to something like fast. Yes. And the
commit
intel
to
system,
fast and commit to the themes and be consistent with it.
The intel system is just, it's so boring, and I never even realized it till somebody said it on Twitter, and I was like, you guys are right. It is really lame. Like in Cold War, you could look at the objects. There was a lot of there was almost too much intel, but this intel system is just so, I don't know, uninspired.
Like,
it's really,
like there's no 3D model viewer, which sucks because, you know, we're lucky we can at least view the wonder weapons in the wonder weapon tab, but like, you know,
that's cool.
Like anything that's not in like the wonder weapon tab, like, you know, we can't view the amulet, we can't view the sentinel artifact. Those should be things that we should like should be able to look at. You have the model in the game. It's not like, it's not like, you know, cross PNG and Vanguard. At least like, you know, you got a 3D sentinel artifact to view. Like just spin it around. That's such an easy point right there. Mm-hmm. Why is there like this? Maybe they were so afraid of the criticism that it got in Cold War that they're like slingshotting in the complete other direction, trying not to put too much focus on it. But now it almost doesn't do anything. Like you first.
Sorry. No, basically what I think worked about the intel system in Cold War was the presentation of the information. There was just so much of it. That's where it kind of became, I guess, annoying. But like there was I never looked at the intel system and was like, "Oh, I hate that all this is here." It was just, "Oh my gosh, I have to collect so much crap." That's what was kind of annoying.
Oh, sorry, I was letting the cat out. I thought you were gonna say more. Yeah, no, like there's pretty much something for everyone in that intel, and even then, I think they even understand that, despite the criticism, if people want to watch the intel, they're gonna watch a video on YouTube that's gonna have it all lined up for them anyways. They're not gonna go out of their way to hunt it all.
That is partially true.
Yeah, like if people want to glean the story, they're gonna watch the Gaming Revolution's 7+ hour video on the story, and that's gonna give them like it's gonna basically glean the most interesting bits of the intel that they need to know.
Yeah.
Like that's a community thing where a community comes together and we pick and choose which ones are the important ones, and we can figure out the mystery and then tell people, yeah, 75% of this stuff is useless. Here are the ones that are important. Did you know that Carver secretly suspected the director of being a bad guy, and the director nearly killed Carver in one of the intels, but decided that he just wasn't worth it enough to kill? That's in the intel. It's a whole subplot.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but again, like, is that really like interesting information? Yes, it is, because it shows Carver's got a brain on his head, and he's willing to suspect any friend or foe that, you know, is on their side. But let's see. So that's enough of that. Here's another one by Make Up a COD Zombie Fan. This is a big one we didn't get into. The enemy variety, specifically the amalgams. They say amalgam in all caps, but let's include the mimic and the doppelgast into that. Doppelgast, I think, is the most like, sure, that thing doesn't annoy me. But the mimic and the amalgam, both of them dragging you in. The amalgam's not annoying. It shows up every 3 rounds. The mimic drives me nuts because it shows up, like 17 of them can show up around, especially on high rounds, and they can all pull you in, and there's no invisibility when you get pulled in, when you get pulled out of it, so you can get slapped by zombies and you can get stunned by it too. So you're basically stun locked, and then you take a guaranteed down. What do you think of the mimic on this map?
Yeah,
especially having 2 grab-based enemies, not just one anymore.
I don't like that part. I don't like that there's 2 grab-based zombies. I have a love-hate relationship with the fact that when you throw certain grenades or equipment at the mimic, it'll dissolve your...
Oh, it'll disable them. Yeah, it can dissolve Gershes, which is crazy.
I don't know if I like that or not. I think maybe if it was the only boss zombie on the map, I would. But since there's so many, I don't. I will say that, like, I haven't done I think I've got to round 40, so I haven't done like a round 100 game or anything yet. But I felt, maybe I'm wrong. Aside from the Easter egg and stuff, I felt like there wasn't a ton of boss zombie spam. It just like they felt a little bit more spread out than I anticipated. Like I assumed like we were going to be seeing the doppelgast like every round. I thought they were going to be a little bit more intrusive. They do feel like they're fairly spread out. It seems like Treyarch kind of thought about this. Like mimics don't come that frequently, unless I'm incorrect about that. I feel like they come maybe every 6 or 7 rounds or something like that. Am I wrong?
They especially past like 15, they start showing up about every round.
Really?
Yeah, they do. Well, because most of the time, if you don't run around the map, there'll be objects that hide around the map.
Oh,
so if you run into them, but they don't count towards the round count, so the round will completely end and you'll just never walk by them.
Got it. So they do show up every round, but you may not encounter them every round.
I will say at first I thought it wasn't that bad, but then once you get past round 35, it cranks up to 11. You get 7 mimics each round. You start getting doppelgas each round. You get an amalgam every 3 rounds. 1 or 2 amalgams every 3 rounds. It doesn't become noticeable until you do reach what is considered the normal like end game point. But then the game just stops caring about balance, and it's when the balance gets thrown out the window when it's not fun anymore. Because you can like, there was one round on I did a high round to 100 yesterday. And I grabbed by an amalgam. I said, okay, I'm fine. Then a mimic grabbed me immediately, and then I got down by that guy.
Yes,
I got multi-grabbed.
That's
it's like
lame.
in the high rounds where it really becomes an issue. And I think just having 2 grab enemies in general is kind of silly.
Well, when you can't counter them.
That's the biggest thing. You can't counter them. I literally had moments where they would grab me, and I would see the tentacles turn to try and get me. Like, they don't fire in a straight line. They gravitate towards you, which is insane to me. Like, why is that like that? That should not, like, be a thing. Second of all, what should not be a thing is the fact that they propel you. The amount of, like, glitches that we've had from mimics since Cold War, shooting you into walls, I don't want to say this should be easy to code, because it probably isn't. But guys, just don't give the movement propulsion when they let go of you. Just have them drop you in the exact spot where you were standing. Because the amount of times that I've had past 5 years, people get stuck in walls. People are stuck in objects because a mimic grabs them and it's like, you're going in the wall now, buddy. So I'm just like, 5 years and they're still like, that's the enemy that I want in every map.
Like, I think that, like, I'll reserve. Like I said, I got to round 40. It was doing boss stuff, so it's like there was tons of bosses. So it's like, okay, fine. I'm down for the challenge. If it's like that, you know, every round from 35, 40 onward, then that might be a little excessive. I'd probably agree with that. So I will reserve judgment there. But I just think the lamest part is that it's not a unique boss zombie of some sort.
Yes.
Like, even if it was just the mimic, well, I don't know what, like, I'm kind of in a weird space here because I actually think the doppelgast fits better in the Tomb than it does on Citadel, and I think the amalgam fits better on Citadel than it does in Terminus. So it's like, maybe there should have been a better enemy on Terminus and, you know, move forward from there. All I'm saying is, like, there doesn't, it doesn't feel too bad in the early rounds, but I just think it's kind of a lame thing to do. You know, I don't want this to be World War II zombies where there's 7,000 enemies in the map because Treyarch just wanted to dump everything because the Dark Ether, like, spreads it all over the place. Like, I just think it's kind of a lame thing to do.
That was a criticism that was launched a lot at Cold War, and it's launched at MWZ, it's launched at Vanguard with this 2 enemies that show up in every map, and then, like, the only map where it felt acceptable was Forsaken, where it's like, okay, you're fighting Zykov, he's releasing the armies of the Dark Ether on you. I'm okay with there being 7 enemies on the map. But, like, every single map starts to feel like that. And BO6 is clearly reaching that point, too, where the Amalgam shows up on Terminus, Citadel, and now the Tomb. It doesn't need to naturally spawn that way. Doppelgas shows up on 2 maps. The Mangler shows up on 2 maps. And I don't want this to be the precedent going forward. Because it does get tiring. Especially when you have all the gameplay mechanics being very similar. Every perk is on every map. The crafting table's on every map. Like, and you have to use mutant injections to get to round 100 mostly on every map. It's like, so now you're putting all the same enemies on every map too. It's like, the only thing that's different is, like, what I'm looking at, which is good to an extent. And maybe the Wonder Weapon, if we're lucky at this point.
Which... so far, and I haven't done the round 100, so maybe you could tell me the ice staff is more necessary, but, like, you just have to use mutant injections. It's some form of the Mustang and Sally abusing an exploit with the, you know, stock reload thing on Vulture or whatever, and then using Vulture to get I don't know if it's Vulture that reloads your ammo, like the Terminus one. You know what I'm talking about, where you can do that exploit. There's, like, always some sort of exploit, and
don't get me started on that.
I think it's lame, personally. And then mutant injection abuse, and it's like, that's lame. So I'm hoping that the ice staff getting to round 100 is going to be pretty viable. It looks like it is, but I haven't done it, so.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation about, like, how BO6 is set up. That's been a thing that's been happening since BO4, but that's another story for another
That's very true.
video.
I agree.
Every BO4 map plays the exact same. Every Cold War map plays the exact same. It's just simply what's on the map, and then what do you like? What do you fight? Which at this point, Cold War era, you fight everything at this point, so it's all in the same map.
Yeah.
At this point, you're right. It's what you look at, but that's not the point. So I hope that gets looked at some point, and maybe the developers will start putting different things on each map to hopefully make it unique again. Because like the zombie models are gorgeous. There are like, and especially on this map, they're probably some of the best we've ever had besides like Origins or Mob of the Dead, or Shadows, where it's like you have this like shaman zombie with a really long beard. Why not make the enemy of the map like a mage zombie? He fires a really easy to dodge bolt of lightning, or maybe he fires like the Eye of Odin like ice storms that buff zombies. That's a great way to call it back right there, and it just makes them like gives them cycle buff. I don't know.
He throws his beard out and grabs you and pulls you towards him.
Oh, they would do that. That's the funny part.
And then throws you into a wall when you're done.
And then he summons amalgams.
Exactly.
Kill him. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. Skyline 7 says the ice staff feels incredibly out of place here in presentation and narratively, especially given its implementation.
You got this, bro.
I know. I'm just messing up the word. The way it's implemented on Origins. That Archibald just kind of casually knows it, even though we've had no indication of it possibly existing in this timeline, feels so off. We brought most of this up earlier, but it was something that made me think about it in the conversation earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I like using it, though. I think it's really fun to use.
It is, yeah. Oh, backtracking on your comp, by the way, about the high round strat. The high round strat is the ice staff, but it doesn't do very good against special enemies unless you use, like, you have to pull out the hand cannon, and then the ice staff storm takes the maximum damage of the hand cannon. So it can actually kill specials.
I saw that. That looks pretty...
Yeah. It's actually... I thought it was a lot of fun. They're definitely going to patch that, so... The high round strat will probably go back to being ice staff plus immune injector. But... Next question from Niffer Edits. I feel as though the story is all over the place, almost teetering on the edge of fan service nostalgia bait. We answered most of that, but do you think it's doing fan service more or nostalgia bait more? I think that's the question I'll ask from that question.
I don't think it's fan service. I think they're trying to do a little bit of nostalgia. I also think they've kind of painted themselves into a corner when as soon as they did that stupid radio in Shin Onuma Reborn, that was the moment the story
My
started
theory
to
has
implode.
always been on that, is that like that was them testing the waters to see if anybody was interested in that, to see if like people like cared enough that like, you know, you could mention Alistair Rose by name, and if no one liked it, they could toss it to the wind. But people, at least people from like BO4 were interested enough for them to say, let's do that.
I mean, that's a fair theory.
Here we are now. And again, you know, back then it was exciting, you know, to have, you know, at least Chaos gets some story, but now we're at the point where the execution's being so badly botched.
It's so confusing.
It's like, why even try? Like, why even implement it? Just do it another time when this isn't the main narrative.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
it's just confusing.
Like, you know, maybe like at the end of BO6, you know, you have a whole BO6 Dark Ether story. At the end of it, Weaver goes, you know, I was looking in the archives. There was this thing called a Sentinel artifact. And then Gray slaps it out of his hand and goes, that's, you know, we don't need to go on that adventure. You know, we've had enough adventures for one lifetime. Just enough to tease it that's a story that they might do with a whole new set of characters. But not enough for like Weaver and the gang and Richtofen to get involved. That story is wrapped up. And then you can lead back into Chaos. Like, I don't know.
It already had direction. Like with Peck at the end of Cold War saying, you know, take me here. That was a clear indication. Exactly. Clear indication. Yeah. Richtofen betrayed these people. We know they're locked up somewhere. Is it on this island? We're not really sure because we don't know. And it was a black site. It was so cool. Like it literally started off so well. I just don't understand where the hell they're going and why they're.
I know, like I want to have faith in them and say that they're gonna land on their feet with this, but I also don't with the way that like if the Tomb didn't come out, I'd say I'd have more confidence in it. I don't have more confidence in it now because of the way that they're handling it. So let's see. And the final question final thought from Shreebington, he said, the significance of the Dark Ether crew finally getting their hands on the relic we haven't seen since BO4 versus how it feels sort of rushed along in the ending. Like this should be a big moment. The artifact is, you know, right there. The music is swelling, and then they grab it, and then all of a sudden, wham! You get the like Panos motif starts playing. Like you get the Dark Ether like little like 90s riff starts playing. That's probably the most perfect way to describe it. Where it's like all the gravitas of that moment is like so quickly rushed along, and then it's Sam word vomiting about them, like just telling them all about the Sentinel artifact. Now it's made by Cortifex, and how there's like a cult, and how the Sentinel artifact talks to us. Like okay. I think that's a very good point to bring up that makes people very upset.
Yeah,
but yeah.
mostly it's just the narrative stuff that's rushed. Like, I genuinely do think this map has great gameplay. I think it's fun. I think it's beautiful. I think there's a lot of great stuff inside of it. I just want to kill zombies and do a quick quest and have some fun and have some challenge in my gameplay, I think this is the map that like does that really well. But narratively, it just is so silly. It's just it's silly. It doesn't even feel like Treyarch. Doesn't even feel like Treyarch did it in a way. It's just it's so goofy. It's like rushed is fine, I guess you could say. It's just it doesn't have that monumental, epic feeling. And you know, as much crap as I give the story in general, at least at the end, the ending cutscene of Citadel, when we're watching Kraft die and we realize he's Richtofen's father, and when we're realizing about what the Sentinel artifact is in Terminus. And even when Pericles kind of floats down and traps us in the Dark Ether, at least there's a little bit of tension there. At least there's a little bit of like, ooh, this could be potentially interesting. I can't wait to see where this goes. But here they just kind of, I don't know. It's like reminds me of those Flex Seal commercials where Treyarch's just like slapping, you know, the black crap all over the hole in the tank and expecting us to be like, awesome, guys, like sick, this is how you should do it. It's like, well, there's so many other things you could have done. This is so confusing. But but the problem is, Treyarch, you got water leaking all over the place still. So while you might have patched one hole, you did it in a weird half-assed kind of way. Yeah, and now we have 3 other holes that you need to kind of.
And one of them is a story that hasn't been solved that people really wanted to see a satisfying conclusion to. And now we're getting this. So
yeah,
it's funny that you say it's a Flex Seal. It's that they're actually slapping Prima Materia on the Dark Ether story.
Exactly. It's a Prima Materia Flex Seal.
Yeah, so I think that's the perfect way to segue into the conclusion. You gave most of your thoughts right there. I'll just add to that. I think I agree. It's a super fun map that takes smaller ideas and clearly wants to try and make them fully fledged concepts. I think it's great. It perfectly feels like a Tomb map. I'm glad that it's this unique location that I think perfectly separates itself due to its layout, due to the setup, due to the different ages of the tomb. That makes it feel different than most other maps. I don't think people give that enough credit, or they just don't care about that kind of stuff. I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of mistakes narrative-wise. A lot of mistakes that I hope that are looked over and changed, and maybe they'll stick the landing, maybe they won't. It's not a very good foot forward for the storyline, and I hope that changes. My last point was, what did I say? But lacks proper meat on its narrative bones due to both the AI strike and risk aversion. What? Yeah, any other final thoughts?
I do have a final thought. I'm trying to find it really quick.
Go for it. Take your time.
On Twitter, I basically said, okay, here it is. So I wrote a tweet that I said, genuinely feel like the hate for the Tomb is overblown, and I'll send you this tweet if you want to put it on screen, or you can cut it out, whatever you want to do. But genuinely feel like the hate for the Tomb is really overblown. I haven't felt this at odds with the community since Black Ops 4, and then I put in parentheses the best zombies game of all time. A little bit of a troll, but I am being truthful. And this one of these guys named Matthew Korn, who was completely polite, no shade thrown here, said the Tomb is like ordering an ice cream ordering an ice cream and them giving it to you in your hand with no cone. Yes, the ice cream tastes great, but I'm going to be upset and it scares me that it's setting precedent for what's acceptable in future maps. That's the reason I can't approve of this map. Then I replied, I'm getting to something here, I promise. I replied, this is not what I'm understanding. Can you explain what you mean by setting precedent? The Tomb is a small-sized map focused on gameplay and survival mechanics, has a short quest, challenging boss fight, unique art design. What precedent are they setting? The narrative is bad, so is the cutscene stuff, and the issues with the voice actors, but the narrative has had problems since Cold War. The community has been wanting small maps, small survival maps in between the big maps, so I just don't get the complaints. It's not ice cream without a cone, it's one scoop in a cup. And then Andrew Hoyt liked my tweet, the developer at Treyarch.
Oh, yeah, Andrew. Yeah, I love Andrew. Yeah, so that kind of speaks a lot to like how they feel. And I'm really glad you brought this up. Yeah, and I think that's a perfect way to talk about the map. It's like, the whole point of this video is how did we get here? And I think maybe people just expected a bit too much. I don't think Treyarch really. Maybe they did make some mistakes with like the origin stuff, but I think that's again at the end of the day, if that's the way you feel in the comments, perfectly fine. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a good discussion about it. And you know, I hope that we can talk about this because I think that this is something new for the series, and I would like to see additional maps going forward. This was like exactly what I wanted. If they could just figure out the narrative stuff, it would have been great in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm going to turn the conversation to you guys in the comments. Please tell us your thoughts on the Tomb. Let us know below. Let us know, do you like it? Do you hate it? What kind of zombies fan are you? How in tuned are you with this game? And we want to know. We want to have a good discussion and to hopefully keep talking about moving forward with zombies and trying new things and not just sitting there and making Shadows of Evil 37 times. Let's keep trying new things. I love that. But Alex, Afterlife, thank you for coming on. Everyone, go follow him. Description. Link in the description below. Anything you want to tell people? Any videos you want them to check out?
I mean, I've been posting like kind of deep dives on Black Ops 6, working on a whole overview of the game and a Tomb deep dive. So stay tuned for that stuff. I appreciate you having me on, Stanley. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I really like the analytical mind that you have, and it meshes well with how I think. And so it's always good to go back and forth, especially like when we don't agree on stuff. We always like navigate into why, and that's very important to me. So I appreciate it, man. Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too, man.